All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm welcoming both our regular viewers on the Law and Crime Network and also our YouTubers who have been so religiously watching this trial on our live stream. We thank you so much. We are currently in a lunch break right now in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial, which is happening right behind me. As soon as they're done with lunch and we have our feedback, we will jump live. You're not going to miss a moment of the trial. But in the meantime, during this lunch break, we're not only going to recap some of the biggest moments in court, we're actually taking your questions. So if you have a question about the case, pin it in our YouTube channel, and we'll bring it on the air, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. So right now I'm going to Vito DeCaro. Why are audio tapes allowed in court? And clearly, Marie, they're speaking about this really incriminating evidence of the audio tapes between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, which are going to play such a key role here. Why are these tapes traditionally allowed in court?
They're allowed in court because they're used to impeach. They're used as evidence to show, in this case, that Amber was not the victim. Because part of this defamation case is that she said something in the op-ed, it ruined his name and it cost him money, and she deemed him a wife beater. The audio tapes are going against that whole notion, and it's really destroying her argument that it was true, that she was an abused person. It's showing her to be the person who was the abuser. So it's being used because it's evidence for Johnny Depp's case.
And, I mean, it was so pivotal to think about that tape in comparison to what we heard earlier, because on a tape, Amber Heard acknowledged that she hit Johnny Depp, and here that was something that his bodyguard had testified to. He saw Amber Heard punch Johnny Depp. Now, Amber Heard on the tape said she didn't punch him, she slapped him. It's a matter of words there, but clearly there was some physical contact. Now, we are going to take more of your questions in a minute. I do want to play some of the testimony from earlier today from Jack Wiggum, who is Johnny Depp's talent agent, his manager. He had worked at CAA. And this, again, is so important to understand what the impact of the 2018 Washington Post article, the impact that had on Johnny Depp's career. Because when we're talking about a defamation case, that is a key element. Let's take a look.
Directing your attention to the title of the article, quote, Amber Heard, I spoke up against sexual violence, unquote. What, if any, understanding do you have of that reference?
Objection, Your Honor. It's irrelevant what his understanding is.
I'll allow it.
That was rather shocking, I remember, because it was the first time I'd heard an allegation of sexual abuse.
And against whom was the allegation of sexual abuse?
Objection, Your Honor. How would he know?
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Mr. Wiggum, directing your attention to the 5th paragraph of Plaintiff's Exhibit 1, Ms. Heard writes, quote, I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse, unquote. To what does that refer?
Objection, Your Honor. How would he know what it refers?
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Mr. Gibson, if you would please take down Plaintiff's Exhibit 1. Mr. Wiggum, how, if at all, was Ms. Heard's op-ed different from other articles about the couple's relationship?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for hearsay foundation.
All right.
Other articles?
Mr. Wiggum, had you seen other articles in the course of your duties as Mr. Depp's agent about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp?
Objection, Your Honor. Still
Yes.
calls for hearsay foundation.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. How, if at all, was the op-ed different from other articles you had read about the Johnny Depp-Amber Heard relationship?
It was a first-person account coming from the victim. It's extremely impactful.
Impactful in a good or bad way?
With respect to Johnny, it was catastrophic because it was coming from a first-person account. It was not from a journalist. It was not from someone observing. It was from someone saying this happened to me.
And again, that's important testimony for Johnny Depp's side, showing how it was the Washington Post article that changed everything for him. And again, we want to welcome back our YouTube viewers as well as our network viewers. But if you're on YouTube watching our live stream, we will jump back live as soon as that courtroom feed starts up again. They're currently in a lunch break, and we're currently taking your questions. Just post them up on YouTube. I want to go to Laura Jael. Laura Jael asks, and this is for you, Dina. If Amber Heard commits perjury on the stand, can she be held accountable for it, considering this is a civil lawsuit and not a criminal court? Clearly, people are already thinking that Amber Heard is going to lie. What do you think about that, Dina? What could happen if they catch her on a lie on the stand?
Okay, that is a great question. And perjury is criminal regardless of whether or not the case is criminal. And not only that, but we see a lot of these pre-taped deposition witnesses where their testimony was actually like a year ago. They took an oath then, also saying they wouldn't perjure themselves. So if they lied, that's a crime. If you do it in a civil case, it's a crime. If you do it in a criminal case, it's a crime. You're taking an oath, and it's the violation of that oath that's a crime, not what type of case or legal form that you do it in.
Yeah, do not lie on the stand. That's rule number one in life and on law and crime. We always make sure of that. Now, we have from Maria Oberfeld. Why is this in Virginia and not California? Clearly, look at this beautiful weather we have right now. No, the truth of the matter is we have it in Virginia because of two reasons. One, the Washington Post article was actually published in their headquarters here in Virginia. And number two, and Maria, I'll go to you on this, our understanding is that at the time this lawsuit was filed, the laws in Virginia were more favorable to Johnny Depp for a defamation claim than they currently are, right? It's my understanding that since that time, there was a law put on place, this anti-slap law, that has actually granted almost First Amendment protection to Amber Heard. Can you walk us through why this might not be as advantageous for Johnny Depp in Virginia as maybe he once hoped?
Yeah, it might not be as advantageous because the anti-slap law basically says if the person said what they said and that is in the interest of the public, you have to show some additional element of malice. So Amber is saying domestic violence is a disease. She was a victim of it. It's rampant in our community. So therefore, she had to speak up on behalf of the public to do it. And if, in fact, that's true, that gives her a type of qualified immunity from the statement, even if it was harmful to Johnny, because she was saying it in the public interest. But now she has to be truthful in what she said, and that's where she has problems.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole matter of the case. We talk about truth and credibility in every trial that we cover, but this one is the central focus here, and it's going to be up to that jury to determine whether or not Amber Heard was telling the truth. So again, these are great questions, by the way. So if you have any more questions on our YouTube channel, just pin them, we'll read them, we'll answer them. Let's play a little bit more of Jack Wiggum from earlier today, Johnny Depp's talent manager, who gave a better insight not only into the industry, but also what happened as a result of Amber Heard's allegations.
Mr. Wiggum, you testified that you closed a deal for Mr. Depp for Pirates 6 with him acting as Jack Sparrow. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggum, could you do me a favor and just count from 1 to 5 for me so I can get you on my big screens here?
Sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'm not getting it.
All right, I'll
there
bring
it
it.
is.
There we go.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'm sorry.
No.
But in fact, Mr. Wiggum, it's not true that Mr. Depp ever had a contract with Disney for Pirates 6. Isn't that correct?
Can you explain that question or that position?
Have you ever seen a contract that provides for Mr. Depp to play Pirates 6?
To the best of my knowledge, my memory, myself and my partner closed an optional picture deal for the amount of money of what that picture would be for Johnny.
And you would make sure to have that in writing, wouldn't you?
You know, that would normally go through legal counsel in terms of the codification of it.
Do you have any explanation for why there exists nothing, no piece of paper, nothing suggesting that Mr. Depp ever had a deal with Disney for Pirates 6?
Objection, lack of foundation, compound.
Oh, I'll allow it.
So I often close, when I was an agent, we would work on many deals where I actually wouldn't see contracts. They were verbal in nature. And then, you know, especially on optional pictures, just so there was an understanding of what the money would be.
So do you have an explanation why there is not even a piece of paper, not an email, not a text, not a document, nothing that suggests that Mr. Depp is going to be in Pirates 6 as Jack Sparrow?
Objection, asked and answered.
I don't believe it was.
So overruled, I'll allow it.
I mean, if you're asking me my opinion, it wouldn't necessarily be alarming, because that would be a conversation usually to understand. Disney's going to want to know, are we on the same page about what the money's going to be? And most of that conversation, if I remember correctly, was also with one of Johnny's lawyers at the time.
And Amber Heard's side trying to disprove that it was the Washington Post article that torpedoed Johnny Depp's career. We're taking more of your questions on YouTube. Again, during this lunch break, as soon as that courtroom feed starts up again, we will jump back live. We appreciate all of our viewers, both on the network and YouTube, watching this case. So we're going to go to more questions right now. Angenette, this is a good one. A.E. Kniff says, why would Amber Heard's lawyers approve her meeting with the psychiatrist? I think this is in reference to Dr. Curry, who testified last week, the forensic psychologist that provided some highly incriminating testimony against Amber Heard, that she has these multiple, has 2 different kinds of personality disorders, was erratic, emotionally unstable. Why would Amber Heard's lawyers agree to this?
That's the quick answer for our YouTube viewers, A.E. Kniff. So basically, this is what happened. When Johnny Depp sued Amber Heard then filed a counterclaim for $100 million for defamation, saying she had suffered some mental anguish, mental distress. Well, guess what? That puts her mental health in play. She makes it an issue. So Johnny Depp's lawyers asked the court, asked Judge Ascarati, to approve a mental health evaluation for Amber Heard. They went to the judge and said, she has raised this issue, so we need to have her evaluated by one of our experts to determine just how damaged she has been by all of this. And so her lawyers, Amber Heard's lawyers, did not want this to happen, as you can imagine. I mean, who would want to subject themselves to that willingly when you're part of a lawsuit? The judge ordered it. It happened last December, the evaluation. Dr. Curry testified that she met with Amber Heard over 2 days for a total of 12 hours and conducted several evaluations using psychological testing. We heard her talk about the MMPI-2, which has been used for years to assess a person's mental health and whether or not they have any of these disorders listed in the DSM-5, which is basically the Bible for psychological disorders. So Johnny Depp's team, had a big win there in getting the judge to approve that. Meanwhile, Amber Heard's lawyers, they wanted Johnny Depp to have to go through the same thing, the same type of mental evaluation. But the judge said twice, apparently, when her team asked for this twice, that he didn't make his mental health an issue in his part of the lawsuit. So he didn't have to sit for any type of mental health evaluation with Amber Heard's expert or legal team. So that is why that happened. As you can imagine, I'm sure they weren't happy about that and did not want her sitting for some type of meeting, but she had no choice.
No, and they didn't want the jury hearing that testimony either, and they tried to discredit that doctor by basically
Right.
saying she's not board certified, she's biased, she was hired after having drinks with Johnny Depp. See how they were trying to turn it there. But at the end of the day, the jury can't unhear what they did here. So we're getting these great questions right now. We do have to hit a quick break. Please write more questions in the YouTube channel. We'll answer them on the other side. We'll be right back right after this.